The sun was setting over RAF Hunsdon in Hertfordshire on February 21st, 1944, casting long shadows across the airfield as squadron leader Arthur Alpha Oxlade and his navigator, Lieutenant Donald Shanks of 464 Squadron, prepared for what would prove to be one of the most daring missions of their remarkable partnership. Their aircraft for this top-secret operation was de Havilland Mosquito Mark VI, tail number NS401. But this was no ordinary Mosquito. Hidden within the sleek wooden fuselage was an experimental IFF, Identification Friend or Foe, transponder, specially modified by British intelligence. This revolutionary device had been programmed to transmit false signals that would identify their aircraft as a Luftwaffe plane to German long-range radar systems. It was cutting-edge technology that could mean the difference between success and disaster on their mission to destroy V-1 flying bomb launch sites near Calais in occupied France. The V-1, Hitler's revenge weapon, had been terrorizing London and southern England for months. These unmanned flying bombs, nicknamed buzz bombs or doodle bugs by the British public, represented a new and terrifying form of warfare. Each V-1 carried nearly a ton of explosives and could strike targets over 150 miles away. The launch sites in northern France had to be destroyed, but they were among the most heavily defended positions in Nazi-occupied Europe. Oxlade and Shanks had been flying together since 1942, forming one of the most successful Mosquito crews in the RAF. Their aircraft of choice, the de Havilland Mosquito, was itself a marvel of engineering. Constructed primarily of plywood and balsa wood, it was faster than most fighters, could carry a respectable bomb load, and had one of the lowest radar signatures of any aircraft in World War II. Flying at wave-top height in darkness, a Mosquito could slip past most defenses undetected. As they lifted off from Hunsdon at dusk, Oxlade pushed the twin Rolls-Royce Merlin engines to nearly 400 miles per hour, skimming just feet above the English countryside. Their flight plan called for them to cross the Channel at its narrowest point near Dover, enter French airspace from the south to avoid the heaviest concentrations of radar and anti-aircraft defenses, strike their target, and escape via the same route. They would have exactly 5 minutes over the target before German night fighters could be vectored to intercept them. The Mosquito crossed the white cliffs of Dover in gathering darkness, dropping even lower as they approached the French coast. The experimental IFF transponder seemed to be working. No searchlights stabbed upward, no flak burst around them. But as they neared Calais, both men could see they were flying into what Oxlade would later describe as a hornet's nest, the most heavily fortified position he had encountered in 2 years of combat operations. The V-1 site was surrounded by rings of searchlights, flak batteries, and radar-directed guns. Intelligence had identified at least 225 anti-aircraft weapons defending the coastal approaches to Calais. To achieve the precision necessary for their bomb run, they would need to climb from sea level to 250 feet, making them visible to enemy defenses for crucial seconds. As Oxlade eased back on the control column to begin their attack run, a single searchlight beam swept past their tail. For a moment, it seemed they might remain undetected, but then the beam snapped back, catching them in its blinding glare. Within seconds, dozens of searchlights converged on the wooden bomber. turning night into artificial day. They had been discovered with 4 minutes remaining to complete their mission. The prudent choice would have been to abort, dive back to sea level, and race for home. But Oxlade and Shanks had not survived 127 combat missions by being prudent. The V-1 sites had to be destroyed. British civilians were dying every day from the flying bomb attacks. Without hesitation, they pressed on. The flak began immediately. Deadly puffs of black smoke erupting around them as 20mm and 37mm shells sought their range. Oxlade threw the Mosquito into a series of violent, evasive maneuvers, the aircraft's wooden frame groaning under the stress. But there were simply too many guns. They both knew it was only a matter of time. Spotting the distinctive ski jump launch ramps of the V-1 site below, Oxlade pushed the Mosquito into a shallow dive to gain speed for their bombing run. At that instant, the aircraft was hit by a massive explosion. The Mosquito shuddered violently and began rolling to starboard. Looking out, Oxlade was horrified to see that nearly half of the right wing had been blown away by a direct flak hit. By all rights, the aircraft should have entered an immediate death spiral, but the Mosquito's exceptional design and Oxlade's superb piloting skills combined to keep them airborne. Fighting the controls with all his strength, he managed to level out just as another explosion rocked the aircraft. This time, Shanks reported that the port engine had been destroyed, its propeller and spinner completely gone. Ironically, losing the port engine partially compensated for the missing starboard wing section, helping to balance the crippled aircraft. The radio equipment was also destroyed, leaving them unable to call for help. They were alone over one of the most heavily defended cities in Nazi-occupied Europe, flying a severely damaged aircraft on one engine. Oxlade engaged war emergency power on the remaining engine, pushing it far beyond its design limits. Amazingly, they continued their bomb run. As they passed over the V-1 site, Shanks released their bombs with precision, destroying 2 large storage hangars filled with flying bombs and a command center. Using their nose-mounted guns, they strafed anti-aircraft positions and pillboxes on their exit run. Another flak burst tore away their port landing gear. The aircraft, now lighter without its bomb load, managed to gain precious speed, but their problems were mounting. The single remaining engine was overheating badly, and they still had to cross 30 miles of open water to reach safety. Their original plan to exit northwest toward their base was now impossible. Any sustained turn risked putting the asymmetric aircraft into an unrecoverable spin. Instead, they headed for RAF Friston, an emergency landing field on the south coast. Whether their dying engine would last long enough to get them there was an open question. Dumping fuel to reduce weight, they nursed the crippled Mosquito across the channel. The engine temperature gauge climbed steadily into the red as they approached the English coast. As Oxlade lowered what remained of the landing gear, an ominous grinding sound filled the cockpit. With the port gear shot away, landing would be extremely hazardous. Somehow, Oxlade managed a miraculous landing at Friston, holding the aircraft level on its one good landing gear and partial wing until the last possible moment. As they climbed from the cockpit and surveyed their aircraft, both men stood in stunned silence. Half a wing gone, one engine destroyed, landing gear shot away, hundreds of holes from shrapnel. Yet the wooden wonder had brought them home. Oxlade requested that NS-401 be repaired, but despite being classified as Category B, repairable, the aircraft was quietly scrapped. It had given everything it had to bring its crew home one last time. The partnership of Oxlade and Shanks would end tragically just over 3 months later. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, while flying Mosquito NS-897 on a vital mission to destroy German defensive positions at Moyenville, they were hit by devastating flak. With both engines on fire and the aircraft becoming uncontrollable at 1,500 feet, Oxlade held the dying Mosquito steady just long enough for Shanks to bail out, sacrificing his own life to save his navigator. Donald Shanks successfully evaded capture with the help of the French resistance, making his way back to England on September 7, 1944. Though officially told that Oxlade had been killed in action, Shanks never fully accepted it. He maintained contact with Oxlade's parents for years after the war, always hoping for news that somehow his pilot had survived. Returning to South Yarra, Australia after the war, Shanks carried the memories of their 128 missions together and the guilt of being the only survivor. He never found peace with the loss of his friend and pilot, passing away in 1983, still haunted by that final mission over France. The story of Oxlade and Shanks exemplifies the extraordinary courage of Mosquito crews who flew dangerous precision strikes against heavily defended targets. Their February mission, completing their objective despite catastrophic damage, stands as a testament to both the remarkable aircraft they flew and the unbreakable bond between pilot and navigator. In an age of smart bombs and precision missiles, it's worth remembering these men who flew wooden aircraft through walls of flak to place their bombs precisely on target, knowing that each mission might be their last. Squadron leader Arthur Alpha Oxlade was posthumously awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for his extraordinary heroism on D-Day, giving his life to save his navigator and complete one final mission against the enemy. His sacrifice, like that of so many others, helped ensure the success of the Allied invasion and the eventual liberation of Europe.